there. It's sort of a whole experience that he's trying to create there. And that really is about his local audience.
And also, it's interesting because it's about the collection for him. But that's a luxury for some people, isn't it? If you are lucky enough to have a collection, then perhaps you can reprogram. You can think about doing, as you said with the V&A Dundee, this idea of rejuvenating your displays, bringing new kind of displays, rehanging and so on. But you interestingly allude to Kunsthalles in the piece that you wrote. So just to explain, a Kunsthalle is basically an exhibitions venue. There is no collection, and so all the programming is temporary. And they are in some cases in a really problematic territory, right?
Yeah, I spoke to Emma Enderby, who's the director of the KW in Kunsthalle in Berlin. Berlin is quite a unique situation, although, not dissimilar to situations we've seen in the UK where public funding is a real issue. But in Berlin, cultural institutions have had public spending slashed by 12%. Now, this news came towards the end of last year, was completely out of the blue. And I believe that some museums are still finding out exactly what budget they're working with this year. And, that makes it impossible not only to plan, it makes it impossible to programme this year. And like you say, to your point about collections, KW Berlin doesn't have a collection. So it really relies on these quite short contemporary shows that keep bringing audiences back. So yes, the Kunsthalle model in Berlin is really in trouble. Other museums like the Gropius Bau, I understand, are managing to sort of slow their turnover of exhibitions. So, again, it's a matter of collections.
And I think one of the interesting things about that is you mentioned about staff earlier on, for instance, and we've done a lot of work at the Art Newspaper on the fact that fees for artists for exhibitions and performances are really low and things like that. And so, you can trim your exhibition programme, but you've got to do programming around it and you've got to pay people if you want to do that. So that makes it an enormously complex ecosystem in terms of the economics of a slowdown, because you still have to activate the displays and everything, right?
Yeah, you do, exactly. And like you say, if your exhibitions are essentially new works by contemporary artists and you begin to reduce that, then you're reducing an income stream for those artists. And again, Emma spoke to me about the possibility that she might have to reduce her seasons by one a year, which would effectively mean her losing around 30,000 visitors a year. So again, it's a significant number in terms of ticket sales, and the knock-on effects for artists is going to be real.
One interesting point that you made in the article relates to the Tate. And Tate Modern is one of the most palpable examples of lengthening exhibition durations. So, for instance, the Lee Bowery show, it opened last month and it's going on until the summer. And you have other exhibitions lasting similar lengths. Mike Kelly was a 6-month exhibition and so on. And that's very much a consistent policy of the Tates now. But you raised this point in the article that people who have been encouraged to become members are finding fewer exhibitions available to them and are considering withdrawing. I thought that was a really, really interesting point, because that's the model for funding that the Tate has really warmed to and wanted to continue and has proved very successful at, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think the person I spoke to about the Tate membership, she'd been to the Zanelli Macaulay show 3 times, and as good as the exhibition is, that just gets boring for anyone.
You've looked at this phenomenon in different areas of the art world, and particularly in your patch, if you like, the art market territory. So tell us about auction houses, because earlier in the year I spoke to Georgina Adam, our colleague, and she was talking about how